What's up, smarty people? It's KeysDAN with RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com, coming to you live in a living color from the Radio What studios. And this is my podcast, What Makes You Smarter? It's an extension of the RadioWhat.com internet radio station that I've been running for quite some time. And if you need DJ services, where do I always send you? DJLittleRock.com. One more time, DJLittleRock.com. Check availability and get a free price quote, and maybe you could have me at your next event. You know, I like to party with the people. Also, if you'd like to tell your story or hear the stories of others, I encourage you to check out my other podcast. It's called What Makes You Famous. Find it everywhere using the hashtag What Makes You Famous. Now, on with the show. Today on the program, interesting facts. Well, I find them interesting. I'll let you be the judge. Today on the program, U.S. elections used to be held over a 34-day window. That's a long election. And how it's all stuffed into one day. As simplified by its name, Election Day as well, a single day. That wasn't always the case, however. The United States used to hold elections whenever they wanted within a 34-day period leading up to the first Wednesday in December. This ultimately created some issues, as you might imagine. Early voting results ended up in holding too much sway over late deciding voters. For one thing, the current date was implemented by the Presidential Election Act of 1845, and federal elections now occur every 2 years on the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November. That may sound arbitrary at first, but the date was chosen quite deliberately. American society was much more agrarian in the mid-19th century than it is today, and it took a full day of traveling for many to reach their polling place. Church made weekends impractical, and Wednesday was market day for farmers, so Tuesday proved ideal. November, meanwhile, worked because the weather was still fairly mild, and the harvest was complete by then. The current process isn't perfect, of course. U.S. elections tend to have lower turnout than most of the other developed nations, and there have been calls for decades to make Election Day a national holiday. A 2018 poll found that 65% of Americans favored the idea, although there has been little legislative movement on the proposal. Should it ever be put to a vote, you know when it will be held. More tidbits of information for you. Members of the Electoral College in the first presidential election, 69. Sessions of Congress held as of 2022, 117. Electoral votes won by Franklin Roosevelt in 1936 out of 531, the most in history, 523. Landslide. Roosevelt was quite liked in 1936. Presidential elections held as of 2022, 59. Oh my goodness. More tidbits of information to fill your head with knowledge. Here's some tangent information. George Washington spent an entire campaign budget on booze. Before he was the first president, George Washington was a member of the Virginia House of Burgesses from 1758 until 1775. He actually lost his first election and attributed his defeat to his failure to provide enough alcohol for the voters, according to author Daniel Okrent. At the time, it was common for candidates to woo voters by plying them with food and liquor. Washington avoided the same mistake during his second run, spending his entire campaign budget on 28 gallons of rum, 50 gallons of rum punch, 34 gallons of wine, 46 gallons of beer, and 2 gallons of cider royal. Served to 391 voters, nearly a half a gallon per voter. He even rolled barrels of liquor to polling places on Election Day, a custom in Virginia at the time. The practice was widespread despite being technically illegal and was known as swilling the planters with bumbo. George Washington. Wait a minute. I got to look more into that a little bit later. He was the first president, but he lost his first election. Wait a minute. I thought he ran unopposed. Oh, I've been misinformed over the years. I got to look more into that. This has been What Makes You Smarter. That's it for this edition. I got to find out more about George Washington's first election. Also, if you'd like to tell your story or hear the stories of others, I encourage you to check out my other podcast. It's called What Makes You Famous. Find it everywhere using the hashtag What Makes You Famous. Like, subscribe, share, comment. I like comments. Maybe I'll read your comment on a future episode. That's it for me. It's KeysDAN, RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com. Peace. I'm out of here.